Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a little video taking a look at the newly released Motorsport Manager Challenges DLC, as well as taking a look at the free content that's just come out alongside it. I do like that PlaySport are now adding, every time they bring out a DLC, they're bringing out free content at the same time, and it's always a considerable update as well. We're going to take a look at the challenges first, give my views on what I've played of it so far, and then I'll take a look at some of the changes made with the free update. So the Challenges DLC, which just come out, is around about £5, your regional equivalent. Again, very reasonably priced. I was a little bit apprehensive about this one when it came out, or when it was announced even. I would have preferred some sort of expansion to different types of motorsport. I was a big advocate of maybe adding endurance racing, some proper long form races, maybe with different drivers swapping over. Maybe that is something they can look at later on. But having played through some challenges, I've got to say that I am really enjoying it and that they've done a really good job, and I can see why they went for this. So you've got these rookie level challenges. I've done the free one race challenges. I have taken a look. I tried Up in Flames as well, but these are longer form challenges. So I'll just give a little overview of the ones I've played and the sort of different, obstacles they put in your way over a normal race. So obviously the most obvious one, the one that's probably been heavily marketed, is the Sprinkler Savvy. This is a sort of a play-off of this idea that every time it rains in Formula 1, people say, you know what, why don't they just put sprinklers on the track, because it's such good racing when it's wet. Why don't we make it artificial? And this is a situation where you've got to finish third or above with one of your drivers, and the sprinklers come on at a set time at the end of the race. And then you've got to obviously adapt to that and then try and get a third place finish. It was quite fun. The sprinklers are, they're a very artificial thing. I had to replay this a couple of times to complete it, believe it or not, even though it says easy. But, I'm not the best at this game, even after 150 hours. And the one issue I had with it was the fact, and the reason, I don't know, I haven't checked if this can be implemented, to be fair, if it's a rule change that goes into the rest of the game. I don't think it is. So it's only relevant for this one challenge, really. But it was at a set time every race, so it was so predictable that you eventually got there. I mean, it's the first challenge, so it's got to be easy. It would have been nice for them to mix it up a bit. It was a nice little entry to the Challenger series, and definitely didn't show off the most of what this mode can do. But it's good fun anyway. Second one I tried was Fighting for Fifth. This is where, as you can see, you've got to have Harry Chapman win the Drivers' Championship. It says you've got to fight for fifth. Basically, you've just got to finish high enough to beat your rival, Oliveira. Now, this is where I had my first stumbling block with these challenges. The Oliveira retired on about lap 4 or 5, and it meant that because you were already in the lead of the championship and no one else could catch you, I could finish last. I could retire there and then and complete the challenge. So I like the fact that they're leaving the random element in there, and normal game mechanics and the simulation of the race is the same as in a normal career race. The only issue with that is it does spoil the challenge, so maybe that could do with a tweak that means that Oliveira can't retire, because that kind of just kills the challenge there and then. So that was incredibly easy. Rewards for these challenges, I will just make a point now. You get some different things. Some of them you get special drivers put into the championship, into your normal game mode from these challenges that aren't in the base game, and some of them you get some very silly additions to your characters and to drivers. There's one that for the Sprinkler Savvy, you've got these zombie faces that you can put on your character. Fighting for Fifth, it was some strange hats, including a quite bizarre chicken hat. I would like the resources to go to making this a better simulation, but at the end of the day, it's nice to have that fun element as well. And as I mentioned before, that's what makes this game pretty fun and enjoyable for a mass market and not just fans of motorsport. So I'm not too bothered about that. Breaking point really was my breaking point. It was unbelievably tricky for me. You've got to have Margate win the race, even though his brakes are close to failing at the race start. So you have to sort of time where you make those repairs. I made them at the second stop, was the best time to do it for me, but he didn't have the pace the first like 4 or 5 times I did it to win the race anyway. Then the final race he just literally left the field, and it was pretty easy to get those repairs in because he'd built up a big gap. But again, it was quite a fun little challenge. It was good to sort of manage that problem with the brakes. All 3 of these just sort of this one race thing, one race challenge, which is quite nice if you just want to do one race and you haven't got much time in the game. And then the rest of them are sort of long drawn out scenarios, if you like. So Up in Flames is the other one I tried. I failed it, unfortunately. This kind of recreates in the modern day what happened to, as we all know, to Niki Lauda when he had his horrific accident in '76, and then him coming back and trying to win the championship. Now, it's only one race that he's actually out injured. You do get to race it, but there's no real consequence towards the challenge from that. You're just trying to develop the car as well as you can. Very, very tricky challenge. You have the second best car, and it's very difficult to actually out-develop your rival. And Chapman, who you're fighting for the title, is incredibly quick. Like, on his day, I got lucky with the first couple of races, to the point that we were leading the championship by a little bit, but Chapman was in every single race so much quicker. So unless you get a bit lucky and something happens to him, it's a very difficult challenge. But then these are challenges at the end of the day. I haven't had time to play any of the rest of them. The rest of them are very drawn out and sort of, or almost a season length, some of them. So the final rookie challenge you've got here, Daddy's Boy. You take over a team, Hammer 8MR, and obviously the chairman of the team has put in his son in the number 1 seat. You've got to try and win the season, even though this driver isn't possibly the best. So that's going to be very tricky as well. And in terms of the pro level challenges, I haven't tried any of them yet because I've just unlocked them. Apart from bottom to the top, which is essentially going from the back of the grid to the front. These are all very long episodes, almost spanning a season. And From the Ashes is probably the one that interests me the most, and I can't wait to get stuck into. Here you're essentially the best team on the grid, but your factory gets burnt down at the beginning of the year, so you can't build any parts for the whole season, and you've still got to win the Constructors' Championship. All in all, I think the challenges are well set out. There are good obstacles in the way. Nothing feels too artificial. They're all sort of real world situations that could happen. And these are just nice little things to do in between your career mode, really. And I think they've done a really good job of it. They've made them all feel very unique. They are all incredibly challenging, even some of the rookie ones. And the price point is great for this. I can't really complain. My only hesitations about the DLC is that a lot of these scenarios can be affected by the randomness of the game itself. I found myself in quite a few situations where, because of AI retirements or because of weather effects, it meant that you'd effectively won the challenge very early on. There was no way you could lose it. I can imagine this could be an issue in the shorter races. The longer form, as you've got plenty of races for it to play out, it shouldn't be so much. But I do wonder if the single race challenges, they should have added a bit more of a structure to what the AI do. But then that is what's great about Motorsport Manager. The fact that it is all random and can change on the fly. So I can understand this from an extent. And what this mode really allows PlaySport to do is add scenarios that could never actually happen in your real career mode, such as your factory burning down, such as a driver getting, sort of a life-threatening injury. By the way, driver getting severe burns, life-threatening injury, he was back to full fitness in 2 weeks. I would have kind of allowed a situation where he was a bit timid his first race back, and it took a few races for him to get back up to speed. Would have been quite nice. But all in all, I really enjoyed the challenges I played. I'm looking forward to playing the rest of them, and it's for a $5, considering how many unique scenarios there are here, and the majority of them do span a season. So I do like the fact that they're fleshed out. You get time to build into them and make up your strategy and go forward with that. And although I would now like to see them go to another form of motorsport, I'm glad they did do the challenges, because it adds, as I said, something to do alongside all of them are nicely thought out, and they are challenging, which is the main thing. Even pro players are going to, I'm sure once we get to the all-star level challenges, are going to find them incredibly tricky. Now, moving on to some of the changes in the free update. Again, I just love that they add a big old free update alongside the DLC, so even if it doesn't pique your interest, you've still got something to play at the same time. The most sort of dramatic change, and the one that you'll notice in every single race from the off, is this run wides and corner cutting. So, as they say, cars can now run wide and cut corners in all tracks. The likelihood of a driver running wide or cutting a corner is increased by the pressure they're under from nearby cars. Now, the biggest effect you'll notice straight away, and one that I didn't think of when I first read this, but I've seen in every race so far, is into the first corner. So you now get quite big first corner incidents of cars colliding, making mistakes and going off. And there is my first problem. I don't know if it's because the pack is bunched up, but any cars that make the mistake into turn 1, no matter how big the crash looks, I've not seen anybody retire. And every car that's gone off and had an issue, no matter, even at times some of them were 5, 6, 7 seconds behind, by about the middle of the second lap they were already on the back of the pack, no matter what their speed was. So whether this is an artificial catch-up that they put on for anybody that makes a mistake on the first corner, I don't know. This does not translate to people that make mistakes in open racing after the first corner though. So it leads me to believe that there is some kind of artificial catch-up from cars that just make a mistake on the first corner. The other big change is what they call weight stripping. So this is that you can now effectively shave weight off your parts, reducing the reliability but increasing the performance. Now, I've had a little play around with this. You do get quite a big increase in performance, but you're going to need a high reliability in the first place. This seems like sort of an add-on thing that it doesn't need, and it's not something that's very realistic as to what happens in motorsport generally. It does in quite lower categories, where you can make quite a lot of changes to your car on the track. When it's your only car or you're a small privateer team, you do make those little things that can cut corners and just get you a bit more time. But in terms of the top tiers of motorsport, you're never going to see them shaving bits off front wings or gearboxes or even the suspension, which is incredibly worrying. But it's a nice feature, and it rewards people who max out their reliability, because it's generally accepted that 80% is something that you can live with in this game. And that means that if you get your parts to 100%, you can drop them 20% and you get a massive boost to that part. So this is a nice little tool to play around with, something, as I said, that will reward players that go after reliability and can give you a big reward at the end of the season for the last few races. Another small change is that you can now increase the zoom a little bit down to the cars. It's not a massive amount. My thought on this is that the textures on the cars aren't quite high enough definition to be able to go all the way down. But it's still nice when you've come out of pre-season, go into a new year, you've got a new livery, new sponsors on the car, you can zoom in a bit more and just see them in all their glory. I think you can also zoom out a little bit more than you had already. This was something I was asking for a mod for a long time, so it's great to see that they've added this little change in this update. So when one of your drivers is injured now, you will now have the opportunity to get them to sit out a race weekend, and you can put your reserve driver in as the full race driver for the weekend, which is good experience for your, obviously, reserve drivers to get them some much needed stats and track time. And it also means that you're not putting out a race driver that is potentially a lot worse than they should be after they've had an accident, and adds more of a meaning to the reserve drivers now, so that they are literally a reserve driver that can step in should there be a problem with your main race driver. Again, a nice little change. There is now the ability to save a setup for a specific track as well, which is incredibly useful, and will, I presume, save you a lot of time year to year. I haven't checked this out in theory. The thing I would worry about this is if you've changed your driver or you've got a different car, as to whether they would want a different setup once you load it. But I guess it should give you a better base to start off with and save you much needed practice time. And personally, as someone that is always moaning about not having enough time to practice and just have the cars out on track, constantly having to change the setup. Being able to start with a base that is closer to the perfect setup is a great feature, so I will definitely be saving all my setups from now on, and it's really great they've added that little thing. The last changes that I'll talk about are UI changes. Some nice little added features. You've now got a live championship and driver championship tracker actually on the race screen. So before you had to go through a few menus to get to this is now in the top left, so you can see a live readout, which is incredibly useful if you're fighting for a championship. The tyre temperature gauge has now had a little upgrade. Well, technically it's had a downgrade in terms of how complicated it is, but this makes it a bit simpler to see. So now you have 4 bars essentially. Top and bottom are too hot and too cold. The 2 in the centre are essentially the working range of the tyre, and then with a little line in the middle for the perfect mark. This just makes it a bit simpler to see. When you were going through sort of a colour range essentially with no real segregations, it was very difficult to tell where, you having to have a rough approximation of where your tyre was. Now it's a bit easier to see more accurately what tyre temperatures you're at and whether you're in that working range. Now the final change I'll talk about is the addition of a realistic AI game preference. This can be done from the menu at any time. This will essentially increase the difficulty and make the AI make smarter decisions on when to pit and adapting to wet weather conditions. This does accept that there may be a problem with the AI adapting to wet weather conditions. I've seen it quite a lot. We've all complained about it quite a bit. The fact that the AI can't really adapt too well to changing weather conditions. And now they've sort of tried to make you think that this is purposeful to, sort of give you a chance. If that is a game decision, at least now we can turn it off, and that just adds a little bit of challenge. It should, in my opinion, be something that is added to the game as a base option. It should be something they should fix. This does sort of just seem like they're fobbing it off as a game choice and then adding this realistic mode to make up for it. But in whichever way it is, if you get frustrated by the AI's decisions sometimes and your promotion to results you shouldn't get, then this is an option you can now turn on in the menus. And all in all, wrapping up, it's a huge update, some great changes to the game that are going to make this even more of a deep simulation motorsport game, and just makes a great game even better. The Challenges DLC is not going to be for everybody. If you prefer the career mode, you're not going to see too much difference here. It's still the same kind of style of racing. Things like the sprinklers and managing certain reliability problems is going to be something that is going to be unique to the challenge mode. And these are going to be great things to just place in between when you get bored of the career mode. The free changes are all much needed in my opinion, and just shows great continued support from PlaySport of this game, and continues to show really how well this game is doing. And it makes me very happy because they made so many great changes from the mobile version to this to make it a full fleshed out PC title, and it's going strength to strength, and I just love to see that, and I hope everybody continues to enjoy the game. Just a quick note, it is actually on sale at the moment for 66% off. I don't know, I presume I don't know how Steam sale works. I presume they work worldwide, but it's as good a time as any to jump in and play the game if you haven't already. That's not a plug. I wish they wanted to interact with my channel, but I just love the game so much. I've just got to point that out to everybody. So that's been a little overview of the changes and the DLC that they've added. If anybody wants to see some of the challenges as maybe Let's Plays or live streams, do let me know down in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Let me know your views in the comments as well. If you played through a few more of the challenges than I have, I'd love to see what you think of the more long form challenges as to how you're getting on with them. And also the free updates, just let me know how you're feeling, how you're finding them, and any you would like to see in the future. And if they were to make another DLC, what would you like to see? Personally, I will keep saying it till they do it. I would like to see endurance racing. Free drivers that you can change the drivers and, hundreds of laps. I would love to just sit down for an afternoon and do one long endurance race. I think that'd be great fun. Multiplayer would be another, but it would be so difficult to set up. I can understand why they haven't approached that. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well. It'd be much appreciated. and tune in for a lot more Motorsport Manager content on the channel, and also some F1 2017 content coming up from this weekend onwards. So excited about that game. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.